Yay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening around the globe. It's Kiltz, Alia, Dr. Nelson, and Susan Peirce Thompson, PhD, to talk about being addicted to life. And oh my God, I have a food addiction. And we're going to talk about food addiction and lots of other things. Dr. Nelson, how are you today? What do we got going on in the world?
Good morning, everyone. We got a few things. Do you have any announcements, Alia?
Sure. So April has begun as of yesterday, and Dr. Kiltz and I have talked, and we did some deep thinking. And the course price, we were going to increase it to $997 for the Kiltz Health coaching course, but really we want accessibility for everybody, and that's Dr. Kiltz's dream, is that everybody goes through the course and becomes a coach, right? And so the price will remain $497. We are enrolling April cohort. Still,
it's a discount. Everyone loves a discount, right? I mean, $1,000 value for $400-500, right? Something like that. So,
and now on the course, you can actually get a coaching call with one of our coaches, also a discovery coaching call. So
included in the purchase of your course.
Yeah. So we want to actually train 100 coaches this month. Enrollment's still happening. Inside the Kiltz Mighty Tribe, which is free to join. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. It's scrolling at the bottom of the screen. There you go. Oh, I got to change that one, but there you go. I'm done.
We have a few events coming up here in April. Cholesterol code screening for Orlando has changed. The date has been moved up a couple of weeks. So it's going to be May. But you can find all the details at kiltzmeetup.com, which needs to be updated, Alia, for the Orlando one. But
yeah, I just saw that.
On April 6th, we're going to be in St. Petersburg, also showing the cholesterol code screening. And the 11th and 12th, we're going to be in Long Island and Queens. All the details you can find at kiltzmeetup.com.
And today we've got Susan Peirce Thompson, PhD. Dr. Thompson, thank you for being here and sharing your wisdom. And we are a carnivore community because we all are lions. Now, whether or not we eat like that might be another story, or live like that. But we're here just to share stories, because stories are what matter, and science, I call it data doo-doo. But tell us a little bit about yourself, Doctor. Do you go by Dr. Peirce Thompson or Dr. Thompson?
Oh, Dr. Thompson. Peirce is the middle name. Yeah.
Got it. Tell us a little about yourself and why you're here today.
Oh, yeah. I come by this whole food health journey, quite honestly. I struggled so bad. I was addicted to food, I think, as a kid, but I didn't know it until I was 21 years old. And here's how I discovered it. I got addicted to drugs when I was 14. And,
which ones?
Well, I started with mushrooms.
Okay.
So I'm 51 years old. And when I was coming of age, Nancy Reagan had this Just Say No campaign where they would fry an egg in an iron skillet and they would say, "This is your brain. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?" And it was horrifying. And for that reason and many others, I listened to a lot of Prince music as a kid, and Prince was very anti-drugs as well in his messaging.
He never used drugs?
No, he was not a drug addict until I always say he died of wearing high heels, because his back pain and hip pain was so bad toward the end of his life, jumping off of platforms in high heels, that he ended up getting hooked on opiates later in life medicinally. But no, he was not a drug user his whole life. Anyway, so I was a non-drug user, and then I did mushrooms at a concert one night when I was 14. And really what happened was my little 14-year-old brain said, "Oh, drugs aren't bad. They're good." I had a full spiritual, psychedelic, mind-opening experience, and I loved it. And so I just committed myself to doing drugs every chance I get. I also lost a lot of weight doing mushrooms that night, 7 pounds or something like that, tripping all night and then sleeping for 24 hours. It was probably water weight, whatever. But anyway, so ultimately I found speed, which solved my weight problem, my food problem, and made me feel like I could conquer the universe. But I got super hooked on that, and then cocaine, and then crack cocaine, and then prostitution. Dropped out of high school. Spent quite a bit of time on the streets in San Francisco.
Good for you.
And well, it got dark. It got dark. And on my 20th, just after my 20th birthday, I had a moment of clarity and I got out of that crack house. And I ended up getting clean and sober that night. And
How long? How long?
I had a drink or a drug in 30.
No, what age? No, what age did you trip over the gospel of clarity?
20.
20.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I did not have a drink on my 21st birthday. Yeah.
And keep going, please.
Well, what happened was the addiction just transferred right over to food. You know, suddenly I was going to 12-step meetings, learning how to be clean and sober, and then going to Taco Bell and eating 4 Taco Supremes and going to 7-Eleven and getting 2 pints of ice cream and going to Safeway and getting, you know, a box of pasta and, you know, a packet of English muffins and, you know, just going home and mowing down all this food, making cookie dough. Cookie dough became my favorite snack. And so I started binging on food the way I used to smoke crack. Basically, I just realized this is not, I'm not really eating. This isn't eating. I'm using. This feels like being in the crack house. So I was 21 years old and I knew I was a food addict. I could see it very clearly, but I didn't know what to do about it because you can't abstain from food, right? But you can abstain from sugar and flour because, you know, you have to eat to live, but you don't have to eat donuts to live, right? So
You're good.
you could eat donuts, but yeah. So anyway, so that's my story. I knew I was a food addict at the age of 21, and it took me till 28 to stop eating sugar and flour completely, to figure out that it was really the refined carbohydrates, the sugar and flour that were drugs. They were literally impacting my brain like drugs. So that's my story.
Well, are we? So we label ourselves addicted when in fact we're just in a world of marketing addictions, and there's nothing wrong with us because the brain wants you to be fat and not skinny because famines are on their way. And in fact, the sweetness and all the drugs are part of probably what we consumed in the wild 50 million years ago, because it kept us going for the only thing that matters, food and reproduction. And so what if our paradigm and our story is completely wrong? And that's why how I found carnivore world, because I finally realized that I was just eating the wrong shit. When you stopped eating the drugs, which come from what? Plants or animals?
Well, originally plants. Yeah. Plants.
You're right. The plants are the drugs.
All the drugs come from plants.
That's right. And so, which is better for us health-wise, a plant-centric diet or an animal-centric diet?
You're asking me?
I'm just throwing it out there for like anyone. Like I mean, it could be Michael Pregler. The best thing that ever happened to my father, he spent a year in jail. And the best thing happened to me is almost going to jail.
Huh.
And ultimately, these are our suffering stories.
Yeah.
Because we're not going to fix anyone. They've got to fix themselves, and they must suffer and fall, because we're not going to prevent anyone from suffering. We're just,
I like that philosophy. I mean, for me, the best thing that ever happened to me was hitting bottom on crack cocaine, for sure. I mean, the best thing that ever happened in my life.
But I don't know if we've hit bottom yet. We don't know that. I'm just throwing out stupid shit. But you're right. Look at, and that's, I mean,
you definitely did. You might not know if you hit bottom. I know that I hit bottom.
I know what bottom feels like. I've been kicked out of school in a gang, father in jail, and I've had all the suffering, because all of us have our own suffering, but it's all our suffering. And isn't suffering and drama and trauma what's meant to happen?
It seems inescapable. I mean, life really, I mean, when I look around and the people that I know, everybody seems to have gotten more than their share of tragedy and suffering in life. Like it's freaking ridiculous how the universe doles it out. So I think maybe so.
But it's not ridiculous. It's actually masterful, because without pain and suffering, trauma and drama, you will finally wake up to the fact that God has got this all the time. Nothing wrong. We are gonna die and become fertilizer or food for something else. Something must happen. We just need to be afraid and tell our stories anyway. Isn't that kind of why you're here? Because I mean, one of my favorite people is Byron Katie, right? I mean,
yeah,
I'm
love
sure
her.
you've read Byron Katie, right?
Sure.
And so, or again, Man's Search for Meaning, or infinite stories of fall, right? And if you are not fucked in fall, you have nothing to share in the world, right?
It's true. It's so true. It's so true. It's where all the good stuff comes from.
And so, like,
yeah.
I don't particularly use or like the word addiction because it connotes a negative, when in fact there is nothing negative about who and what you were or who and what you are, because all of it works in some perfect nature of you becoming.
But do you have to deny the reality of the challenge to celebrate the good that is likely to come from it? Like, to me, addiction exists. Like, it's very, very clear to me that addiction is real.
Story. Only a story. And that's the beauty of these stories. Pick your story. Pick your story. Again, it's your story. But without those things that I suffered from, I would not know and become the person I am. And the stories of the people that did. And so who creates everything? God does. God is here for our suffering, but it's not a bad thing. It's actually the best thing. Because without it, we wouldn't have the art, the stories, the magic of our lives.
Yeah.
And so
totally
rather than a negative, because what he gave us was love and forgiveness. Love and forgiveness of everything. Because as long as you hold on to this label that I am lost and I'm a failure, you will live that until you realize the dude is telling you a story. Again, we use the words addiction and suffering and pain, but that's in order for us to see the light of life.
So one of my favorite quotes is, all theories are wrong, but some are useful. And I think that the addiction construct is super useful, or has been for me. And I embrace that label. Like, I am an addict, not as a pejorative. Let me finish. Not as a pejorative, but as an empowering rationale for living in recovery. Because what I find, and this is what I find in people that I help abstain from sugar and flour, unless they embrace that they're really addicted to those things, they typically don't have the motivation to do what it actually takes to abstain from eating them entirely.
I use them, but I'm powerful and capable of minimizing or eliminating. I've done it multiple times, and I don't use these things in anything other than a positive of life. And so just a flip. That's all. Look at, I'm telling my story and I enjoy your story, but I'm addicted to life. I'm addicted to the ups, the downs, the joy, the sorrow. And ultimately,
so that's a total bastardization of the word addiction. Addiction is an enthusiastic, lots of. Addiction is hurting yourself with tears running down your face, not able to stop, like trying to stop over and over, and you can't. That's addiction.
You can, because you have, and you've done it, because you are powerful. And I'm just giving you my story. You're living your story. We're all living our stories. And so I agree with your story as you live it, but I don't see it that way in the story I tell myself, because I am all powerful and I am capable of everything and anything. And so are you. But we've been told by these storytellers up here that you're incapable, and that's not true. You're capable of everything. Christ gave us the message and the simplicity that God is within us and we are capable of all things. He said, love and forgiveness, judge not lest you be judged. Why would you judge yourself with anything other than the power to do anything? Just a story. You are capable of all things. You are capable of abstaining 100%. Heroin cocaine is a deadly drug. But our leaders claim you're an addict, but you're not. You're capable of everything. That's all I'm saying. Again, everyone's going to have their own power here because that's the beauty of the messaging. We can say whatever we want, but I will say that you're capable of everything and anything, and you're not an addict. You're a human God. That's all.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
And I don't mean this to be antagonistic, but I really am
here
curious.
For a conversation. Don't worry. If we all agreed, it'd be boring.
How are you carnivore if you eat sugar and flour sometimes? Isn't
By
the
the way,
definition
meat-
of the diet that you
No,
don't
because
eat
meat
sugar and
contains
flour?
sugar. Because meat contains sugar.
No. I mean like the white powder that's in a, that's born in a factory and poured into a plastic bag and creates.
Do you drive a
things
car?
Like, I do.
Do you live in a house?
I do.
There are infinite poisons all around you. I am capable of small amounts infrequently or not at all, and I've done it. And
Okay.
so ultimately the real killers are the thinking we live with rather than the environment that you live in. So the inside world is really the killer, not the outside world.
So how would you define the carnivore diet?
Animal centric. And so rare to raw fatty meat, one meal a day or less, is like the radical. But you don't have to be radical. You can eat a potato, a tomato, rice, pasta, or bread. Are they good for you, or are you capable of eating small amounts sometimes and you will likely be fine? Of course. And so again, we're looking for perfect strictness and never wandering away, correct? But we're humans. We drive cars, we live with human beings, oh my God, I'm drinking coffee today. I went 2.5 years no coffee. I was fine. I'm capable of no alcohol. I don't smoke marijuana, use drugs, but if I did, I'm not going to label it as good or bad, but I do keep my body as clean as possible. But I also live in a world of a lot of conflicting ideas. I mean, are plants good for you?
I mean, at some times, in some ways, depends on, like some aloe on your skin if you've got a sunburn. I don't know. Like,
well,
depends on the context.
Do we make alcohol in our guts?
I don't know. Do we?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Autobreury syndrome. That almost everyone makes alcohol from the microbes that are fermenting amino acids from proteins, lean meat, and sugars from mostly plants and fiber.
Mm-hmm.
And so ultimately, there are more drugs in the plant diet we eat than there are in the heroin that you might consume infrequently in small amounts, although it's more likely to kill you and control you anyway. And so, I don't know, we make up labels and descriptions. Maybe Dr. Nelson could comment on this. I mean, we consider a carnivore 90% meat eaters or 10% not. Some people even go 70%. But these are our labels. Like a lion, does a lion ever eat grass?
I think
yes,
lions.
sometimes they do.
Yeah.
But do they eat it because it's good for them or it'll help them vomit and clean out their gut? Or a dog or a cat does that, maybe. But when they eat the gut, when they eat the animal whole, are they getting plant materials from the digestive system that they've probably eaten a little bit, right? And so, but we are interested in the conversation of addiction, by the way. I'm not here conflicting against this word or this idea. We are living in an addictive environment, and becoming strong and capable of minimizing and or preferably eliminating is what we really want to do.
Yeah, I agree. And one of the things about addiction is that it's this peculiar warping of the brain where small inputs can create huge outcomes. You know, for someone who's been really, really addicted to alcohol and developed advanced late-stage alcoholism, small amounts of alcohol after a period of sobriety can have very large effects that they would not have on a body that never developed late-stage alcoholism. And so the reality can be that in terms of ease, in terms of success, in terms of having the life we want to have, for some people, no sugar and no flour is way easier and way more effective than small amounts of sugar and flour. Because for some people, when they eat a cookie or a piece of pizza, they find themselves never able or almost never able to stick with that. They have, way more than they intended.
Well, when we
and they
use the
fall
word
down a
never,
slippery slope.
that's assuming they're dead or they're dying. Again, the secret and the thoughts or things are ideas to instill, and faith is the most powerful concept, because human beings are capable of everything and anything. But too many people could die of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease.
Yeah.
What is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease?
It's a disease of eating too much sugar, basically.
It's a actual plant-based alcohol-producing gut. Because plants are fermentable. And it's the one site that we're missing in this that ultimately, and again, it's why carnivore. I'm 70 years young. I went carnivore at 55. Before that, I was keto, paleo, Atkins in my approach. And it changed my life when I first understood the power of the mind. That was number one. But then when I discovered carnivore, I was like, oh shit. And again, we don't need to admit we're an addict, although, hey, I got a problem. Yeah, I got it. Now we're seeking, right? We're all seeking ideas and answers from people like yourself, which I highly recommend, by the way, Dr. Thompson's work. But I'm just talking a story at a level that I have found through the mindset. And whether you're a carnivore or an herbivore or omnivore, all things are possible through, I believe, the concepts and ideas of Christ-based teachings, which are basically thoughts and mindset ideas. And the science, though, is powerful, because fatty meat suppresses the microbes in the gut, and there's no toxins in fatty meat because latex and small amounts of opiates are in plants. And many people die, and I've seen too many people die or suffer from a plant-centric, low animal fat diet, that I think it's the game changer, along with the understanding the power of the mindset. And just a different level. That's all. Now, again, not a better level, a different level. It's like we're at different, levels of wherever we're at. We're all sharing a conversation. We're not here to agree. It's better sometimes to disagree so we can all dig deeper into what you mean and I mean. That's the beauty of it. We're all agreeing. It's boring as shit. Catholics don't agree. Jews don't agree. Muslims don't agree, right? And neither do carnivores, herbivores, and omnivores.
It is true. It is true.
So tell us what your primary place of sharing your story, and how have you seen people heal from claiming their addiction and moving to a new level?
So after I discovered I was a food addict but didn't know what to do about it, I spent 8 years getting fatter and fatter and fatter. And by my late 20s, sorry, hold on.
Yeah.
By my late 20s, I was living with obesity. And I was doing really well academically. I had dropped out of high school, but I went to community college. Love the community college system. Hooray for that. Oh, I've got a tickle in my throat. Hold on.
Go, take a moment.
I had a cough drop waiting because I thought this might happen. It happened to me yesterday too. Anyway, so went to UC Berkeley after community college, majored in cognitive science. I was really into the brain and the mind. I just wanted to study the brain. Got a PhD in brain and cognitive sciences, became a psychology professor. And I was 28 years old. I was just finishing up my PhD. And someone taught me how to not eat sugar, not eat flour. And my whole life changed. I lost all my weight really fast as soon as I stopped eating those foods. And moved to Australia, did a 2-year postdoc, came back and became a psychology professor. And I started sharing with people just for fun and for free how to lose weight, basically, how to break free from food addiction. People who find that they really have a hard time controlling how much they eat when they eat certain foods. They just, they intend to eat one piece of pizza, but it doesn't happen that way over and over and over again.
Why?
Well, I would say, you've talked a lot about mindset. I want to talk a little bit about biology, right? Because you can think that you're super powerful, but if you try to hold your breath and run up 100 flights of stairs, you're going to fail, right? And because the brain demands oxygen at some point, there are limits to what human beings can do. And when the brain gets hijacked to a certain degree, it's going to take over. And so understanding human limitation, I think, is an equally important part of living an empowered, triumphant life as embracing human potential and the power of the mind, right? I think it's a both and situation. So what happens is
biology to get fat, or is it pathology to get fat?
Pathology, I don't know what you mean in this case by pathology.
Would you say addiction is a pathologic state?
I would say addiction is a disease. Is that what you mean by a pathologic
that's pathology.
State? Yeah.
Pathology is, but what if?
Yeah.
What if
it's a part of the brain that's been hijacked that you can sort of point to and say right there, that is the cause in the brain of behaviors that are maladaptive, that are hurting somebody, that they don't want to be demonstrating, right? And we know exactly why it's happening. It's in the nucleus accumbens that's experiencing dopamine downregulation. And what's happening now is that the urge that's emanating from those reward centers in the brain is so powerful that somebody finds that no matter how much they want to do differently, they keep doing the same thing and it's hurting them and they don't know how to get out of that loop. So that's the definition of a disease, is when you can point to an organ, a tissue, a system, or a structure, and it's producing maladaptive and predictable outcomes or behaviors.
Right. So this is where carnivore comes a little bit, but the what I'm stating here is that obesity is not a disease. It's a biologic state for survival in an environment that is used to famines, migration, hibernation, and gestation. So I don't call any obese person diseased because there's a bomb going to be dropped. And the world is used to disease, war, pestilence, etc. The universe doesn't care about any of us individually. It cares about the survival of the species. And so if you're eating a pathologic diet, which is plant-based, because in fact, it's actually not completely pathologic, because a bear will consume 20,000 calories for a few weeks in the autumn to get fat for hibernation and gestation.
Totally.
So all of it's all science, because the universe is not dumb here. But what we've taken is the harvest and pulverized it and placed it on a plate and said, here, through fast food chains, which are not natural to humanity.
Totally.
Right.
No, our food environment has just warped beyond the beyond, and our bodies are doing exactly what they were designed to do, in just a food environment that was not designed for them.
Right. So the strength and the power is to say, fuck this shit.
Yeah.
They are trying to make you a domesticated animal.
Yeah.
And
They're
your
trying to hook
power
you.
is to say, fuck you. Excuse my language. I'm sure we're going to bleep that. But it's to say, I'm not addicted. You have placed me in an addictive environment, and I am capable of the lion within me to do whatever I choose. And I am eating the fatty meat, and I can go days without food, even weeks, and fast and have faith in God within the power of me.
Yeah, I think the fuck you to the big food industry is a really powerful perspective. I think it's really helpful to say, like, no, you're not doing this to me. I see right through your game. I know you're putting people in fMRI machines and studying how the nucleus accumbens lights up to these foods and these commercials, and I'm not doing it. I'm not being your patsy.
Well, that's the whole point. I am a God. I am capable of everything and anything, the word game, because every thought has a molecular structure to every cell and beyond. That's what we're talking about here, is that we are done with their shit, but I'm not blaming them, because I take full responsibility what I put in this temple, and I choose these things. That's all.
That's a place where you and I have a lot of overlap. I teach my community. The reality is we're not changing the food system likely, in the near term, right? Like ultra processed foods, have utterly revolutionized our human food system, because you can manufacture one thing in one location that's so shelf stable in a plastic bag, and it can be shipped anywhere in the world, and it can survive for months and years and decades without alteration. And it's just too expensive to manufacture things or to make them, homemade in small batches, and only distribute them to the towns that are right around you. Like, food systems are not going back to the way that they used to be. And so we need to take responsibility for taking care of our health and our well-being in the food system that we currently have. Like, it's a very empowered position, I think, to say, I'm not at fault here, but I am responsible. Like, my well-being and my health depends on my actions and my responses to the food environment that I live in.
And ultimately, I don't blame anyone for my life except that dude called God. And so when you accept full responsibility of the power you have within you, that's the game changer. And really, that's what we're all here to do, is take control and power. And that's why the reading and listening to your stories and all the stories of every person here will change the universe. Mm-hmm. And again, to me, carnivore is our ancient evolution, because there are no poisons to the fatty raw meat, organ meats. And fat is actually the most amazing thing to eat and to store on your body. And when that bomb drops, or you're sick and you can't eat for weeks, you better have plenty of fat on your body.
So are you looking to gain weight?
In the appropriate time and way. But again, if you eat the proper human dietary state, which is basically animal-centric, fat-centric, you'll be healthier than ever. But if you don't care, if you're an anorexic or cachectic, or again, being skinny, no other animal tries to be. There is no BMI. It's all bullshit.
It's something I've definitely noticed. I look out my window here. I live in a very nature rich area, and animals are never fat. I haven't ever seen a single fat deer or squirrel or chipmunk. Like,
If
they're
you're
just
not
never fat.
if you're not a fat bear or polar bear at the right time, you're dead.
Okay,
Again,
I guess, yeah, those are
okay,
exceptions.
look.
I don't have any of those outside my window, though.
Any comment about obesity is wrong because it is the state of survival. Fat is never a poison. It's actually your building block and your healer, because you and I only run off fat. Sugar is never your energy. Glucose is not energy. It is a glycosylating agent. It is critical for actually every function of your body, but it's not energy. And so when we understand how the human body works, we get fat for the famine, migration, hibernation, gestation. And then, but remember, our brain is addicted to food and sex because those are the only two things that matter. But in an environment where you got to get up and go find your food, but we don't live in that world right now. You basically have a button to press and they deliver it, and they're going to deliver poison to you. That's why you go to the rancher, you go to the butcher shop, and you make sure the freezer is full of fatty meat.
Butcher box.
If you really want to be the healthiest person ever, if you've never done carnivore, you don't know a clear mind, because autobrewery syndrome is real. It is the most common problem I see every day. And the number of diseases have gone basically from we didn't ever have one to like there are over 150 disease labels. 1,000 disease labels. And so you're not a disease. You're not an addiction. You're a goddess and a god, and you are capable of everything. Mind is the master state of all humans. And so when you label yourself anything that they've convinced you is negative, and you need a therapist or a drug or a 12-step program, you've missed the point, in my opinion. Again, live where you're at, but I'm suggesting there is another state, and it's the state of mindset. Questions, Alia?
Sure, we'll get to those in a second. I just wanted to tell Dr. Thompson, I've talked to many people who've gotten unaddicted to like alcohol and drugs just from doing a carnivore diet. And I'm curious if you tested it out on yourself, how that might work with what you teach. I'm just stating that because I've talked to many people that were alcoholics, smoking weed, and they just stopped one day because they were on a carnivore diet. It's so strange.
Really?
And like a carnivore diet, like a very strict, not like I'm eating some carbs sometimes, like a very strict meat only, eggs only sort of diet, and they got unaddicted. In like
Really?
eggs. Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. I just wanted to toss that out there before I start the questions.
Thank you for letting me know.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, who took that down?
What
Yeah.
What did I was getting to the questions.
I just put up a post up there. Really good.
Oh, which one? This one?
Okay, look at. We're all going to end up where?
In the ground.
Dead. Something's going to happen. Okay, so we're going to have this conversation. Nobody else is ever going to die of an overdose. Plenty of us will. We don't know if we're not going to. We don't know tomorrow. Point a little bit is there's a journey, and we're sharing ideas that we can help each and every one of us. But we're all on our own journey. We must suffer our own suffering and strengthen our own strengthening. That's kind of where I've found my spot. But one day I might say to Dr. Thompson, you are damn right. Shit. Kiltz was wrong. I will do it, by the way. Question, Alia.
Let's see. Brian, all right. Susan, was there someone who helped you at your lowest point that is still in your life?
Yeah, my dad. When I was hooked on speed, he had a series of conversations with me and actually convinced me to stop using speed, and I did. I did get hooked on cocaine and then crack after that. And he had another series of conversations with me, and I wasn't able to stop right then, but it planted seeds, I think. And my grandma had died just before I got clean. And I was prostituting myself for cocaine the night she died. I remember the night she died very vividly. It was a horrific night. And I know that her spirit came to say goodbye to me when she died. And I was her only grandchild. And she saw me there, and she didn't know what was happening in my life at that time. And so she got into the great beyond, and she marshaled some forces, and I had my moment of clarity and got clean shortly after that. And so she's still in my life, even though she's not alive anymore. And yeah, the guy that helped me get clean went back to using and isn't around anymore. But my dad and my grandma both helped me at my bottom. Yeah.
And they're still here with us because they're the stories. The biblical stories are powerful. And I talk to my parents, my brothers, my sisters, my infinites, because they are within our minds. They're our stories. And the stories you're telling and sharing are really what matters most. Another p-value to me is just another interesting story, but it's the stories that we tell. And we're sharing your stories. And your story matters. We're grateful. Next question, Alia.
All right. DJ Magic Man, is sugar really an addictive substance?
So Dr. Kiltz and I seem to have differing opinions on the notion of addiction. But if you think that cocaine is an addictive substance, scientific research shows that sugar is addictive just like that. So what they both do is they release a flood of dopamine in the nucleus accumbens that's way beyond the levels that you can get from naturally occurring stimuli. When you take plant substances and you refine and purify them into a fine white powder or a thick syrupy sludge like heroin or high fructose corn syrup, when you refine and purify them like that, you amplify the drug-like potential, the way that those substances hit the addiction reward centers in the brain. And that flood of dopamine, if it comes over and over and over again, like you're eating donuts or whatever every morning, that flood of dopamine affects the brain the brain is very intelligent. It says, okay, that's excessive. I mean, that's kind of nice, but it's excessive. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to recalibrate so that my response is not so intense because I'm out of balance now, right? And so what the brain does is it thins out the dopamine receptors. It makes them less numerous and less responsive. It's called dopamine downregulation. But then what happens is you don't feel right normally. Like if you're not going to be eating donuts, a bag of chips, a muffin and a latte, like eating like that all throughout the day, you're now going to feel restless and irritable and a feeling of discomfort inside your skin if you're not getting an excessive hit of dopamine on the regular. And so that's kind of what we mean by addiction. The brain gets rewired so that it's wanting and craving more and more and more of that substance. So yes, sugar really is an addictive substance. You can look at a brain scan and see the brain that's been consuming too much of it and how the brain has been rewired, just like cocaine.
When in the environment is sugar naturally most abundant?
When you get some honey away from the bees?
In the fall, the autumn, late summer, getting ready for winter.
When the berry bushes are
It's
ripe.
biologic that sugar is highly addictive because we're just dumb human beings that create rockets and try to go to the moon and Mars. But the universe doesn't care about that. It cares about getting fat for migration, hibernation, gestation, and that's all. And so That's where the carnivore diet comes in, because what is the carnivore diet lacking? Plant sugars. It does have animal sugars, part of the glycocalyx, because they're natural and normal, and they're the most important molecule on the cell wall, actually. But yeah, we are eating, like drinking sugar and drinking our calories. Like, what other animal drinks their calories? Next question, Alia.
My question.
Thank you.
Through your research, what is more addictive, sugar or cocaine?
So there's two ways to look at this question. What wires up the brain for that dopamine downregulation faster, or what have you, or what's harder to recover from, like what's harder to kick. And if you give rats an option of sugar or cocaine, they actually prefer sugar. And they will overconsume sugar before they will overconsume cocaine. So that's illustrative. The spike in dopamine is a little bit higher in cocaine than in sugar. But what I found when I went to recover from my drug addiction was it was blissful and a relief that I had a world to return to where I wasn't seeing billboards to smoke crack cocaine. I wasn't going to work and having people offer me crack cocaine. I didn't have friends or family that were encouraging me to smoke crack cocaine. And I could basically live in a world that was free of cues to consume that substance. When you're trying to give up sugar, it's a way harder thing in terms of your whole day is like an opportunity to go back to eating sugar, right? So it just becomes much harder. So for a lot of reasons, sugar and flour addiction, I think, is way harder to kick, and it was for me, than a substance like cocaine.
Which one in the short term is more harmful?
In the short term, probably cocaine.
And would those rats or mice that consume cocaine, it disturbs brain function, doesn't it?
Yeah, they both do, but yeah.
Right. So it's a little bit more pathologic to brain function, and that's our big. But of those people that utilize cocaine, how easy is it for them to stop right away?
I mean, I think current recovery stats are pretty abysmal.
Right. So in fact, again, it's a little weird, and I'm just suggesting that sugar, in essence, is part of our diets because it gets us fat and doesn't disrupt brain function in the short term as much.
Right.
And so,
yeah, like I could function as a sugar flour addict. I couldn't function as a cocaine addict.
And so ultimately, I mean, addictive, the cocaine exists in our world because of the powers of the money who brought opium to China and basically attempted to control and kill them all. Cocaine is on the streets because of the same forces of money.
Yeah, geopolitical, and financial stuff. Yeah, sure.
And the beauty of carnivore diet, it just clears the mind and gives you the strength to say, shit, this is what I am. And gives you the power to actually overcome those things more than you've ever known. Story. Next question, Alia.
Okay.
Can I comment on that comment? I now consider sugar
please.
Processed foods poison. I love that, Faith. And that is my mantra. So when I see, whatever, someone eating dessert or whatever, or it's Thanksgiving and the pumpkin pie is being passed around, what I say in my head to myself is, thank you, God, that's not my food. That's poison to me. That's what I say. Mm-hmm. Thank you, God, that's not my food. That's poison to me. And then I really think of how it poisons my body, my spirit, my self-esteem, my motivation, my sleep, everything. It's poison. And I think about how it it creates in me the intense desire for more of it. And I don't want that. I don't want to want the next one. So
you know
I
what
say,
goitrogenic
no.
foods are?
I do not. What is that term?
Goitrogenic foods are known plants, just the plants, seeds and fruits and vegetables that damage the thyroid gland, but they also are tumorgenic. And so the problem is all these healthy people that are getting cancers and diseases are the part you're missing that we see every day in medicine. Because I see healthy people getting very sick. And again, I don't label any of that poison because small amounts infrequently are not our problem. It's making them our daily bread. And that's really the poison, in my opinion, because fruits and vegetables are equally poisonous, but people don't know it because they're more fermentable than anything. Simple sugars, actually, in small amounts infrequently, are taken right to the hepatic portal stream and converted into fat fast. But the problem is people are drinking and consuming them all the time. So people are consuming seeds and nuts as their health foods, or protein centric or protein smoothies, right? Which ultimately are pulverized plants that are goitrogenic or tumorgenic. That's the part that I see.
I'm going to ask this question. Dr. Thompson, what nutrients does the brain need to function properly?
You know, that's a great question. I don't know the answer to it. So in my PhD studies in brain and cognitive sciences, not too dissimilar from medical studies, we got zero minutes of nutrition education related to the brain.
Wow.
I've come to learn later that, the relationship of fat and the brain, right? The brain is a big, few pound chunk of fat, essentially. And so there's a lot of fatty acids that the brain needs to function properly. And I've learned a little bit about omega-3 and omega-6 ratios and things like that. But I'm sure the brain needs all kinds of nutrients to function properly that I am not aware of. It sounds like Dr. Kiltz wants to weigh in on this.
Oh, no, you're right. Think of the brain like every other organ, system, and cell of the body. They have the same requirements. And it's obvious, actually, what they are. It's fat. It's adipose tissue. It's actually because all adipose tissue contains every mineral, vitamin, and building block and energy source of the body. Plants provide a lot of toxins that are antigenic and glycating that cause a lot of our problems. Because again, healthy people are dropping dead all the time. And that's our problem. We don't understand it. But because a bear that hibernates and gestates loses no muscle mass, no bone mass, they only lose one thing. And they use their fat. And that's why we build fat and high cholesterol, because your body wants it to protect you and help you survive and thrive. But that's really the simple answer. But it's because when Occam's razor keeps it simple, it feels more palatable.
Can I go back to that question actually and say a little bit more? I just realized I know more than I was thinking I did when I first started answering that question. So there are 4 nutrients, I guess you could call them, chemicals, ions that the brain needs to function: sodium, chloride, calcium, and potassium. Those are what the neuron functions on. Yeah. And so there are people out there, there are doctors and health experts out there telling people to give up salt. And they're out of their mind. And you got to make sure, there are 2 things. There's one nutrient that you can taste, and that's salt, because it's so important that you get enough salt. And it actually was not easy to get enough salt, 10,000 years ago, right? So we evolved literally to have the ability to taste salt. And if you look at neurons and how they function, they're functioning on sodium, chloride, potassium, and calcium.
Oh.
That's what you need, like, for nervous system functioning.
And fatty meat, salt, and water is the carnivore lifestyle. That's it. That's the simplicity of it. And
yeah, you got me on here so early that I haven't had my glass of salt water yet. I need to go crack my salt. I got to go backtrack and do my morning routine.
Dr. Thompson.
I mean, again, salt, water. I mean, salt. I mean, think about it. Look at Gandhi and the work that they did. They said, "Screw you. We're going to go make our own salt." I mean, licking salt is critical for all of us, and that's a good point. Thank you, doctor.
Babies inherently natively prefer salt. They will suck harder to get salt water than plain water at birth. They already prefer salt.
And mother's milk has all of it. And mother's milk is adipose tissue. And that's why women get fat, hyperphagic and pregnant, is because without it, they're dead. Because in the ancient environment, you did not have 3 meals a day. You were lucky to get 1 a day or 2 a week.
Yeah.
Dr. Thompson, where can people find you?
At brightlineeating.com, BRIGHTLINE, brightlineeating.com. Yep. And I have a book that just is coming out. It's called Maintain, and it's about the psychology of how to keep weight off long term. So if you've ever struggled with your weight and you've rebounded and lost and gained, that book will tell you what the deep internal identity shifts are that are needed to be someone who will maintain their weight loss long term.
So I'm showing here your link tree, Bright Line Eating, and I guess I already know if you search for that term, Bright Line Eating, you should find Dr. Thompson.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
All right. Oh, I got to do the giveaway. Hit
it.
Go.
Hit it. Dr. Thompson, your wisdom and words are really inspiring for everyone. And thank you for listening to Crazy Kiltz a little bit. And
you are not what I expected. I have never heard this show before coming on it. And I'm like, okay. We're thrown right in the fire here.
I want to did ask Cara, please have Dr. Thompson watch some of these live streams first. I don't know if she forwarded that.
Nobody passed along that memo.
and again, it really is the power of the mind, because we are the masters of our mission, and thought creates all things. And that's the psychology of psychology. There's nothing wrong with you. You're perfect, healthy, and well. And that is the secret of the universe for all of us. Dr. Nelson, any last minute concepts, words, or ideas? And Alia?
But in 20 seconds, I'm hitting end. So
at 59,
we have a live stream at 3 p.m. We have a live stream at
30. Dr. Thompson, you got about 10 seconds. Any other thoughts or ideas that you want those that are listening today to know?
Oh, just it's been a trip and a delight to be here. Thank you for inviting me onto your show. And lots of love, everybody. It's nice to meet you.
All right. God bless everyone.
Okay, bye.
All right, Alia, hit it.